Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and it's safe to say that we have a blockbuster that just went down on this Friday night at 8 p.m. We thought that some kind of Taylor Hall for a mid-round pick deal was going on. Then Frank Saravalli came on Twitter and said, Mikko Rantanen is heading to the Carolina Hurricanes, and everybody collectively lost their shit. So yeah, we're going to break it down. We're going to break down the full trade. I think it is a very, very interesting trade for both parties. The exact details, this comes from Greg Wyshynski. So it's sounding like, and this is confirmed by now, Rantanen and Taylor Hall to Carolina, Necas, Jack Drury, a 2025 second-round pick, 2026 fourth-round pick to Colorado, and Chicago is also involved with this, a 2025 third to retain 50% on Mikko Rantanen. That's like $4.625 million, I think. Yeah, his total cap, it's 9.25. So yeah, that is our trade. Carolina, after last year uncharacteristically going so aggressive at the deadline to get Jake Guentzel, they do it again. They go out and get Mikko Rantanen. I think I'm going to focus on Carolina because I think that the Colorado angle of this is going to need a little bit more of explaining in-depth detail versus Carolina. It's pretty simple. They yet again got the better player in the trade, got a massive talent upgrade at that because, of course, Rantanen, to start the season, was playing at just like a straight heart level, still is playing like a top 10 guy in the entire NHL. 25 goals, 39 assists, 64 points in 49 games. He is a bona fide top 15, probably top 12, maybe even top 10 player in the entire NHL. Does it in the regular season, does it in the postseason, better than Jake Guentzel. And when looking at Carolina, although you like their pieces of Sebastian Aho, Martin Necas when he was on the team, Svechnikov, and Jarvis, didn't have that true superstar. I love Sebastian Aho, and maybe in a different market, he would be a consistent 90-plus point guy. But Mikko Rantanen has proved it time and time again that he can be that legit superstar. Even when Nathan MacKinnon hasn't played, I think the stat is like in his last 29 games since 2021. I used it in a video a couple days ago. He's like 39 points in 29 games when Nathan MacKinnon doesn't play. He is not some kind of Nathan MacKinnon merchant. And yeah, I really like this from Carolina. They don't give up a ton, only a second, fourth, and Necas. I don't really care about Jack Drury that much to at least this season be so aggressive to potentially win the Stanley Cup. They've been a legit contender since, I'm not going to say 2019 because 2019 was kind of just like an amazing run by them, but since like 2020, this team has been pretty top tier. Definitely since 2021, this team has been a top 7 team in the entire NHL. So I like them being ultra aggressive. And again, I thought that this would probably cost, if you told me 2 hours ago what it would cost to get Mikko Rantanen, I probably would have said Seth Jarvis. So the fact that they only give up Martin Necas, we're going to dive in when we get the Colorado angle of this. And when looking at this, they could probably keep Mikko Rantanen. Yes, it will be expensive considering he didn't want to re-sign in Colorado. They had like the internal hard cap, which we're going to talk about. But yeah, they can potentially re-sign him. As you can see in 2025, 2026, they only have $46 million tied up to forwards. They only have $16 million tied up to defensemen, mainly because Orlov and Brett Burns come off the books, and only $2 million as of right now. Kochetkov is at $2 million. So all in all, they have what, $64 million under the books next year, and not really any prominent unrestricted free agents. Yes, you'd love to re-sign Orlov. You can get him much cheaper than $7.75 million. Brett Burns will probably take a $2 to $3 million deal considering he has regressed. You have the money to re-sign Mikko Rantanen. Will it be some hometown discount? No, certainly not, considering he denied that from the Colorado Avalanche. But last year with Guentzel, you thought maybe that they would prioritize Guentzel, but there was always a serious chance that Guentzel was going to leave in free agency because they had 9,000 different unrestricted free agents. But they played it pretty smart this offseason in terms of opting for cheap guys and then eventually going, obviously the plan was with Tulsky to go out and get this kind of whale when they did have the cap this offseason instead of overpay Brady Shea or Brett Pesce to stay. So yeah, this was the plan for Carolina, I guess, to eventually go after one of those top dogs, considering we saw in the New York Rangers series, especially on the power play, they just could not score goals. They could not get ones past Igor Shesterkin in the Eastern Conference. There's a lot of decent to good goaltenders that they're going to face against. Logan Thompson, Markstrom if he's healthy, just to get out of the Metro Division. So they need a serious upgrade in terms of their goal-scoring capabilities, and it's safe to say Mikko Rantanen will provide that for them. When looking at it from Colorado's perspective, the first thing that's going to be massive for this deal, I don't want to give it like an incomplete for Colorado, But it's going to be very interesting to see what exactly Mikko Rantanen signs at. Because if Colorado was dead set on that hard cap of $12.6 million set by Nathan MacKinnon, I know Mikko Rantanen's camp wanted 13.5, 14, but that was kind of negotiations. If they never offered him 12.75, $13 million. And then in Carolina, he ends up signing for 13.1. I'm going to be very disappointed in the Colorado Avalanche. The fact that they weren't able to go above that internal cap. Yes, Nathan MacKinnon is a better player than Mikko Rantanen, but he signed 2 to 3 seasons before Rantanen's deal would have kicked in. The cap is continuing to rise. So for Colorado, if Mikko Rantanen ends up signing for 13.5, 13.75, $14 million. I'm perfectly fine with doing that. If he wanted that mega deal that would have made him the second highest paid player in the entire NHL, I think you live with this return. I think it is a pretty solid return, even though I'm not that high on Martin Necas as others. When looking at his track record, he has taken a sizable step this year, fueled by 42 points in his first 27 games. He has slowed down a decent amount, but I think on the Colorado Avalanche, he can be a solid 65 to 70 point guy. I think it is a solid return. If you thought that, oh, we could have kept Rantanen, but we didn't want to give him that mega deal, he would have left for literally nothing. And they got a second and a fourth. I think that second and a fourth could be flipped at this year's deadline for a serious impact piece that could help them potentially go on a deep run or trade for a guy that maybe has some term at a low cap hit to kind of try to replace Mikko Rantanen within the aggregate kind of money ball instead of giving him that massive contract. And I think another obvious massive part of this deal where it's kind of incomplete is, are they going to cave into a Martin Necas extension after the season? After, again, this career season where he had that great start, but has only been like half a point per game ever since it. So if Mikko Rantanen signs for 8 years, $13 million, and then they give Martin Necas some kind of 8-year deal at 8.25, 8.5, I'm going to hate this deal a decent amount for the Colorado Avalanche, but if something happens and Rantanen signs for 8 years, or it hits the open market 8 or 7 years at $14 million, and they wait on Necas, wait till next season, and then sign him at a reasonable 8-year deal at $6.5 million, then I think it's a very solid deal for Colorado. When looking at Colorado, I said it on the podcast a couple weeks ago that although I thought that they were going to get something done with Mikko Rantanen, like most people did before 2 hours ago, I didn't hate the idea of him potentially letting him walk or trading him or something like that, considering the fact you do have 2 superstars. It's not like you lose Mikko Rantanen and now your entire core is absolutely cooked. It's not like a Calgary Flames back in the summer of 2022. But yeah, they still have the second best center in the entire NHL, second best forward too, and the best defenseman in the entire NHL, or if you take Quinn Hughes, 1A, 1B, you get what I mean, top 2 for sure. But when looking at it, yeah, they still have, the core pieces are still there. One thing to keep an eye on though, for sure, is are they going to allow Cale Makar to go over that $12.6 million? Imagine in 2 years, we see a Cale Makar trade in late January because they say, oh, he wanted 13.5. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think they kind of drew a hard stance on Rantanen considering he is a forward. But yeah, Colorado definitely hurts them this season. No doubt. They fall a decent amount. I said they were in the Central Division. I don't really believe in it that much anymore, but overall, based on this, I'm not massively like Colorado's window is closed. It's definitely not, especially considering they got the goaltender of the future. Blackwood has been so good and they have him locked up, although I maybe don't love that deal because it's not a massive sample size, but Colorado's still in a very good spot. Colorado, unlike some other teams that let their guys walk to free agency and then lose them for nothing, I think that this was a very respectable move by Colorado to say, yeah, we're not going to cave into you and risk losing you for nothing. We're going to set this internal cap, although I think it's stupid if it was within range of the $12.6 million. We're going to take future assets. We're going to get a guy that's 2 to 3 years younger, and Jack Drury, who isn't anything special, but maybe can be an effective, cost-controlled third liner for the Colorado Avalanche. So yeah, I obviously really like this for Carolina. I think they're going to re-sign him. I'd give this an A-, maybe an A for Carolina. Go check my Instagram. On Instagram, the trade grades are probably up by then. I'll finalize it after this. But for Colorado, I'd still give it a B. B+. It will change by July 1st. We will have different grades for this trade, considering one guy is a pending unrestricted free agent. The other guy is extension eligible on July 1st and has been pretty cold of late. But yeah, I think it's a pretty solid deal for both parties. When Kakaniemi was involved and there was no second and fourth round pick, I was like, what the hell is Colorado doing? If they took on Kakaniemi, his 6 years remaining at $4.82 million, I would have came on here and said, like, bad trade for Colorado, no doubt. But they get a very cheap player the next season and a half in Martin Necas. Even though I'm not a massive believer in Martin Necas, $6.5 million the next season and a half is awesome value for Martin Necas, but it's going to be interesting what they do beyond that. But yeah, solid deal for both teams. For Chicago, how do you not get a second if you're retaining that much money? It's okay. I'm definitely not gonna kill them for only getting a third round pick. It's actually a pretty decent deal for Chicago. It's Taylor Hall, considering he was coming off injury, like, you did not really expect to get much of a turn. But yeah, for both parties, you thought maybe Rantanen was going to go to Chicago, but apparently something came out that the Colorado Avalanche told him, you're either going to Chicago or Carolina. We're trading you. And then he ended up wanting to go to Carolina. So Chicago might be big game hunting this summer. Not going to be the case with Mikko Rantanen. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about this trade? Who do you think won? Who do you think lost? What would your grades be? I think right now I'm at an A- for Carolina and a B+ for Colorado. But extensions pending. Let me know in the comments what do you think. I'll be seeing you next one. Peace.